representing public health here, because that's really the perspective we've taken and the approach that we've taken to address this issue. We got some initial funds to start working on this campaign through California Health Foundations that were looking at people that were getting sick from contact with contaminated ocean water and with contaminated water here in the Tijuana River estuary. And here today from the public are people representing a lot of those efforts. There's Dick Tynan here, who's a rancher. We passed right by his ranch. He lost, three horses during the floods that we had back in December. Very directly connected with the public health threat there too, and also to recreation opportunities for our local community here in these areas. We have in the back Jay Novak. He's a surfboard shaper, and he's lived here for a long time. Parts of our beach here are closed on average 200 days out of the year due to Tijuana River pollution. And San Diego State's Graduate School of Public Health has found through water sampling hepatitis A in 80% of the samples off the IB pier within 3 days of rain. And now we're actually partnering with San Diego State and with the IB Health Center to offer these cards out to local ocean users, letting them know if you do go in the water when it's polluted and you do report getting sick, we need to know that information. Because we still don't have enough information. We have a lot of anecdotal information, people getting sick from going in the water. I've gotten sick plenty of times, but as you all know, that's not enough to make that direct connection. So we're really looking for your support to see how we can make that connection. We know it's in the water, but we really need to understand better how it affects the health of our community. So there's some potential there too. And also it affects, border security as well. Our Border Patrol won a class action lawsuit to receive hazardous work pay for working next to the Tijuana River. The Navy SEALs used to train at the mouth of the Tijuana River, and they had to move their training further north because they were getting sick. It also impacts agriculture. The Tijuana River Valley is traditionally a rich agricultural area, and with these past floods, one of the local organic farmers there lost tens of thousands of dollars of his watermelon crop because it was flooded by contaminated water and trash from the Tijuana River. So this really is an issue that brings everyone together in the community, and I think as long as we're all here at the table and we're all willing to address it, there's going to be a lot of support from the local community, and there's going to be a lot of political support for this issue. So we're going to keep the momentum going, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you. Any questions or comments by the committee?
Yeah, two questions. Let me just put them both out there, and we can address either or both. You mentioned, and Ben mentioned at the end of his comments about the degree of public broad support for this effort, and you showed the chart that identified one of the problems is all these intergovernmental, interjurisdictional issues with different government agencies going to different parts. And oftentimes when you see that situation, there's the other reference to this being a problem that's popped up over 70 years. So I would expect to see a long list of MOUs, intergovernmental agreements, and land swaps, and lease provisions, and all these convoluted things that have cropped up over the years, purporting to allocate responsibilities for different things. One question is, what does that landscape look like, if you know? The second question is, in terms of the overall strategy, is it developed enough such that you know how much of it is relates to, say, infrastructure, how much is technology, how much is land use or policy type issues, or what does that break down?
Yeah, thank you. The first question is a really interesting one. We had a little bit of that discussion about half an hour ago. I really think that we do need to have some structure, as John said. We don't know what it's going to be, whether it's a 501c3 or JPA or a conservancy to formalize what the collaboration is. But I think the important thing is that you build a community. And you build a community around a common issue, and frankly, there's some regulatory threats to that community. You can do it the easy way, you can do it the hard way. The easy way is for us to all work together. I've had some experience in building communities around complex public issues, and I know it can work. And as we work through building that community, we'll find out what the MOU type mechanisms we need to do. But I think it would be better to minimize bureaucracy and maximize building community. we go through this as kind of a principle. I don't know if that answers your
Well,
question.
what I was asking is, do you know how much, historically, how much of that exists now? Like, usually what happens is somebody comes up with a great idea, and then somebody walks in and says, you know what, that 10 years ago, we signed an agreement that had a paragraph that said we were going to do it this way. And then somebody else comes in with a binder that says, oh yeah, but these two agencies, got this passed 20 years ago. So one challenge that you may have is at least understanding where you're starting from, in terms of really understanding what kinds of arrangements are in place now. One might say, well, can't we all just agree that that's yesterday and start with a fresh slate and just do what makes sense now? But it just seems like one barrier, has is what's happened in the past. So I'd suggest that somebody at least make a call for people to bring forward if there's any barriers that that might be out there that people should know about. You can maybe start to identify them, and that also then may tie to the second question about how much of the effort that you're undertaking is really policy, development, how much of it is infrastructure investment, how much of it is something else.
Yeah, we're still in our, let's see, John may want to answer this too, but we're trying to identify as a way of unifying that community, what are the key actionable items that we could do that would have success to make this to really sort of valid. And when we have that list, then we'll be going through trying to match that list with dollars and trying to match that list with the pieces, regulatory and otherwise, agreement-wise, that may or may not contribute to that and figure out how to resolve those. That's my simple view of it, and I know it gets more complicated, but frankly, I don't recall, John, maybe you do, I don't recall any of those kinds of issues really raising their head, at least in the last few months. John may have a different view.
Well, I think there is a unifying concept, and that is the legal premise that the regional board has through the state water code, through Port of Sloan, that we can regulate the discharges of waste that cause or contribute to a state of pollution or nuisance or impairment. And the water body that we know is the lower Tijuana River Valley has a lot of landowners, including the federal government, and they're subject to the authority of the regional board because of their status as a discharger. And if the waste is on their property and they're the property owner, it just so happens that state law says we can order them to clean up and abate. They would argue, take us to court and say that's not our trash, somebody else put it there, but state law clearly says that if it's on your property or if it's in groundwater below your property, the law provides for the authority for the regional board to direct them to clean up and abate. And that was the gist of our workshop last summer. And the regional board members weighed that and said, well, do we start issuing cleanup and abatement orders to solve the problem, or do we put some resources into having a public and private process? And this process that has evolved, as I said earlier, there's been a remarkable response to it because I think there's such a common knowledge, just as with New River over in Region 7, that this is a problem that is going to only get worse and we need to solve it. So I think that eventually MOUs will evolve between some of the parties, but I don't see overarching MOUs or documents for that. I think it's impossible to have everybody bound by. You'll never reach any agreement that we would all agree to, but perhaps through the action teams and through portions of it, there would emerge documents. And I think that, for example, something that will emerge will be modifications or new treaty minutes with Mexico. There'll be some economic agreements over certain things. The transfer station, that's going to probably need a deed, and somebody's going to own that land and they're going to own that facility, and then there'll be contractual arrangements that will come through the operations and maintenance of these things. So it's unfolding. We're making it up as we go, but we have the right people. They're highly motivated, and so far there's been general agreement on the direction. No one has stepped up and said, time out, you guys are going in the wrong direction, you're missing a big piece, and you have a flawed premise. We're not hearing that. So. Well, thank you for the chance to brief you.
Just really quickly, I wanted to add, just a line from EPA, that this year EPA awarded a $1 million grant to the Southwest Wetlands Interpretive Association to help with this effort. And I just wanted to make
for, that that money should be